Hey guys, Robbie Calvo here. Today we're playing a D major pentatonic scale over a D Lydian progression. Now a D Lydian progression means is our chords are derived from the key of A major, however they resolve back to the 4 chord, which is the D chord, D major or D major 7. Now our chord progression was very simple. It was a 2 chord vamp, and it was basically a D major chord played like this or like this, moved up 2 frets to E, so it was D and E, and it was revolving around and resolving back to that D. So it's kind of like this. Okay, and you can hear that resolves back to the D chord. Now I'm using D major pentatonic to play over this Lydian progression, and all that means is that there are 2 notes missing from our major scale Lydian mode, okay, or approaching it with the major scale modes. Doesn't mean that it's any less Lydian, but there is a characteristic note, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Now you saw in my solo that I was playing mainly around the 5th fret to start out with, and a kind of motif based thing with some rhythmic kind of phrasing in there as well, which is one of my things that I like to do. I think starting out with pacing and ideas and melodies is a much stronger way to ease someone into a solo and then maybe branch out and take it somewhere else further down the line. As I did that, I moved through, a couple of patterns of the D major pentatonic further up the fretboard. But anyway, let's take a look here in 5th position at a D major pentatonic, and I'm going to start with my root note. Okay, and resolving back to the D. Now you saw me sliding into tonalities and semitone bending into the scale as well. So I want you to remember that you don't just have to play these scale shapes kind of verbatim. What you can do is you can bend into the notes, slide into the notes. There's all of these guitar skills that we have to make all of these scales more musical. Now we get to use our tasty old licks, our pentatonic licks, which is even better. Now the downside obviously of using the major pentatonic as opposed to a full modal scale, if you like, is we don't get that characteristic note. Now the characteristic note of D Lydian is this G sharp, which is a sharp 11 or a sharp 4. Now, doesn't mean that you can't put that in if you want to, put it into the major pentatonic for flavors, but you don't have to, and like I said earlier, it doesn't make this progression any less Lydian, and using those notes are choices, right? Anytime we choose notes to play in a solo, they are choices. Now this, obviously I'm playing through a couple of things here, and you saw me move through a couple of ideas further up the fretboard. So let's just look at a couple of patterns. So we know this one. Now let's descend through this one. Okay, there's our D, here's moving up. Etc. Okay, and you guys probably following my courses from now on have all got these patterns under your fingers. If you don't, however, you can play your minor pentatonic box here at the 7th fret. It's going to give you D major pentatonic, and your chord tones are going to exist here and here. Alright, so you've got 3 chord tones. You've got your A, which is the 5th, D, which is the root, and the F sharp, which is the major 3rd. So if you're plainly, only using your minor pent box, if you like, think of it now as D major pentatonic and resolve to the tones of D major. Okay, so there's the ideas, right? So phrasing your ideas, melodic motifs, repetition, and actually playing with passion and flair and using your other skills, your legato stuff and your bends and everything else, and taste is going to be just as important as the notes that you choose. Okay, so this is D major pentatonic playing over a D Lydian progression. I think it sounds really, really cool. And one of the other things that you're getting by using just a 5-note scale is you've got that distance in intervals that you don't get by using, obviously, if you want to use the 7-note scale. Of course, we can still get the intervals, but we typically don't because we play in a very linear fashion, a lot of us. Anyway, there's some ideas for you guys. Study my solo at the beginning. Wasn't that technical. It was more about passion and playing the right notes, okay? And one other key thing, you heard me playing, bending into notes of the E chord when the E chord was playing as well. So just listen for that as well. I was bending up to a G sharp, for example. And there's things like that that you can do out of these scales that, if you really think about it, you can actually colour the tonality of the chord progression as well. Alright guys, so there you have it. Pull up the track, play over it, and remember, phrasing and taste is just as important as anything else.